Welcome back to J&J Dynasty. Just doing a little bit of a slideshow here to not make it look so good, of course. So what I'm really going to be talking here about is going to be the mock drafts on Fan Pros that I've been looking at. They've become very, very similar. I don't even do a 5-round mock anymore. It's 4 rounds because you've gone through everybody by 4 rounds, right? Anybody who is worth rostering. So, and realistically, there's going to be, 5 to 10 or so free agents in the 3rd and 4th round that people are going to pick up anyway. So you really only have to do a mock of 4 rounds. But that'll give you the idea of the top, and probably at the worst case scenario where somebody's going to be hitting at least for the first 2 rounds-ish. So I think some guys were a little bit high, but that's what it would happen. So what I did was I chose the first overall spot. So 1-1, and obviously Breece Hall is going to be the first pick, right? So what I did after that was there was a cheat sheet, and I took the player with the highest percentage for all the rest of the spots. So my first round is not who I would have necessarily taken there, but that's who the mock draft said to take there. So that will show us the most accurate way to view this mock draft according to Fan Pros in mid-May 2020 for the upcoming rookie drafts for 1 quarterback, PPR leagues, Dynasty. All right, so let's get back to it. Let's change her out here. All right, so there you go. Now I'm back. Woohoo! Right. So as I said over here, right there, way over on the side. Breece Hall, 1-1. As you can see, now you can see my team. I wound up taking Breece Hall at 1-1, George Pickens at 2-1. According to their mock draft, that was the highest choice for 2-1. John Mechie was the highest choice for 3-1, and then the highest choice for 4-1 was Sam Howell, right? Yeah, Sam Howell, North Carolina quarterback. Got a bad eye, just had eye surgery, so I took a little bit of a break, and so I'm trying to put out a little bit of content in case anybody wants it, just in case, So, at any rate, but this is one of the things I like to do to get myself ready is run through a bunch of mock drafts, and that's what you really should do. Now, this also helps me get my mindset not only of who I'm going to get, where do I have to get to on the lines, right? Trading up or trading back. Where do I have to go to get X player if I really like them? So like this one in particular, all the way down here at 2.3, Trey McBride. I think that's a little bit high for a tight end. I think it's really high for a tight end of his caliber, and I think it's really, really high for a tight end of his caliber who is going to be the second tight end in Arizona, at least for 2 or 3 years, because I think Ertz signed a 2 or 3 year deal. Can't quite remember if it was 3, but it's at least 2. It was multiple years. So probably his breakout years could be 2 years down the road. So why not draft him in the 3rd round if you're going to have to hold on to him that long? Because you're probably going to wind up cutting him anyways at some point in there. Typically, tight ends take 2 to 3 years to mature before they even start breaking out. We've had a couple the last 2 years, but we all know that they're pretty good. And there's going to be a couple more coming up next year that are going to be really good. So just as an overall general, as you can see down there in the 4th round, basically, several tight ends went off the board. If you want to take a shot at one, take your flyer down there. All right, so let's go through this starting from 1. Obviously, Breece Hall. Everybody knows he's not a generational quarterback or running back, because nobody will say that, even though his stats, playing, his stats from the combine, draft capital, and everything says that he should basically be like Saquon Barkley, right? He was actually higher rated on the physical assets than Saquon Barkley, who was a generational running back. But nobody wants to say that he's a generational running back. I don't know why. So moving on from there. Everybody knows that Breece is probably going to be the 1-1 in everybody's draft unless somebody reaches on one of the running backs, and then he's going to be minimum 1-2. So we know where Breece Hall is going to go. The fascinating thing for me, I think, was Treylon Burks coming in at number 2. I can see the value there. obviously. Any one of these, wide receivers, the next 5 guys that went, they're all going to go in that range at that level, picking and choosing depending on quarterback, stacking with teams that are drafting that position and who comes up, who likes guys. It's really funny that in this draft scenario, Olave gets all the way up to the 3rd spot for the wide receivers, and Williamson and Drake London are the back half. Now, both of those two were the guys that were injured coming in, and they didn't do all the testing, but Drake London, for most people, is the wide receiver 1 coming off the board. So it's very interesting that Treylon Burke is all the way up at 1. I mean, personally, I think I would do Treylon Burke's number 5 of those guys. Well, 4 or 5, Chris Olave and him. I think Jameson Williams, I think that he is definitely in the middle. I like him, but he's going to be out for the first couple weeks, most likely, because of his injury. And so that leaves you with the 2 Ohio State guys, and both guys landed in great positions. Burks is not the route runner that A.J. Brown was. So if you think that you're going to get the exact same output from that wide receiver in the same offense with similar characteristics, it's not going to happen. Burks doesn't run the same type of routes. Has not shown he can run the same type of routes, and get open with those with the separation, right? So I think that Burks is actually leveled down from A.J. Brown, so I don't think that I would take him there. But if I had Tannehill, or if I was planning on getting Malik Willis later in the draft, then that might be a possibility of what you're going to wind up doing. Garrett Wilson, I mean, he's going to be 1 or 2 if I ever have a spot right here to pick. That's what he's going to be, my 1 or 2 wide receiver here. So with that being said, we can go past those guys at least. Kenneth Walker. For him and Spiller, before the combine, everybody was talking both those guys up as being better than Breece Hall. Being better than Breece Hall. Breece Hall has years of the stats showing that he's elite. Everybody knew how big he was. People didn't think he was as fast as he was. But they always said that, no, but at any rate, Kenneth Walker in that position is a phenomenal bargain. I really think that he shouldn't get past pick 3 in a draft like this, but this is what happens because he's going to have a full year. He's an insulated asset, right? Because whatever happens this year with him, even if he gets injured, he's got the draft capital, he's got the stats, he's got the production, and so he's got all the things that stack up for him that he's not going to drop in value. So if you take him, worst case scenario, he's Travis Etienne next year. So that's a very insulated position, and I'm going to guarantee that 1 or 2 of these first 5 wide receivers, their stock is going to plummet, and they're going to be down in the 30s. They're going to be second-round values next year. Kind of like we'll think of like this year, right? Last year I got Terrace Marshall in a couple drafts, and I had to draft him, had to move up to get him, early second round. I think a couple shares of him I got one share of him at 2-1 and one share of him at like 2-3. And now he's pretty much worthless. I mean, I've got to hang on to him just to see if he breaks out this year. Year 2 are player breakout years. Year 1, learn the system, learn some NFL. Year 2, you want to see them break out because that's the biggest growth year for players. So you got to remember that. So then the next running back that came off the board was Rashad White going to Tampa. Not a fan of that pick. Rashad White has a lot of possibilities, raises a lot of eyebrows. Everybody wants to tie. I don't know what the deal is with this draft. Everybody's looking for a receiving running back and pushing them up the board, right? For Rashad, it was Williams, right? The Notre Dame kid. So I don't understand that James Cook. This really aggravates me that he's all the way up here in this draft. because I liked him 2 years ago. I saw him at Georgia, and I said I was going to be getting some shares of him. Well, it doesn't look like I'm going to be getting any shares of him because of how high he's being drafted. I was hoping that originally, even after the college season, that I was going to be able to get him easily in the high third round, right? But the draft capital and the draft testing have pushed him all the way up into the late first round. So, I mean, I love me some James Cook. I probably won't be able to afford me some James Cook. Then Skye Moore. I think a lot of people are overvaluing Skye Moore. This high for his type of receiver, don't get me wrong, I like Skye Moore, right? I think he's got a lot of assets. He's got the hands to do a lot of things. He's quick, but he's not super fast. He's not incredibly small, but he's not big either. He's kind of just the tweener type of guy, and I think that he's a really good wide receiver type, right? I mean, people always want to pigeonhole guys, but in guys in the last couple of years, I think that he's like a Hunter Renfrow. You know, probably should be the slot guy. They're probably going to have him out on the edge because outside, you know, playing X and Y. Mecole Hardman, they still got to use him. You know, it's a thing where I don't think that he's definitely not going to be Tyreek Hill, right? He's going to have a few breakaway plays like Tyreek just because he's with Pat Mahomes. And that's why he's going all the way up here. I don't like it. Mid to late second round is where I liked Skye Moore, and that's what I think about that. Now, Christian Watson, that's what I think about Skye. I do like Skye, but yeah, Christian Watson. I think I said in a different video, I think he's going to be Marquez Valdez-Scantling in Green Bay. Now, that's bad because he's not Davante Adams, because everybody thinks that he's going to be Davante Adams, right? That's not going to be the case. That's not how Green Bay's offense runs. I'm a fan of a team in that same division. See Rodgers a couple times a year, plus all the national games, right? Christian Watson is Marquez Valdez-Scantling in their offense. So with that being said, I do really, really, really like Christian Watson, but you can't think of him as Davante Adams. You got to think of him as Will Fuller, because he's going to be running the deep routes. He's going to be catching the bombs. So against a bad secondary, he may go off for 2 or 3, maybe TDs in one game. I would love him in a best ball format. For growth potential, I love him, but if you're going to be counting on him at 111 to win you games this year, you better be dang lucky to get him, or to get him in your lineup on the weeks that he goes off, because he's going to have a lot of low scoring games. He'll probably catch, 3 balls. They may be for 45 yards, 7 points. If you're happy with 7 points, more power to you, but I want more consistency than that with upside, especially if I'm drafting a guy in the first round. And the problem with that is that could be all he ever is, because of the position he's probably going to play in Green Bay's offense. So I love Christian Watson. I like his landing spot. I think that he's going to be a better player than Marquez Valdez-Scantling in that role, which means he's going to catch more touchdowns. He's just going to flat out catch more balls, and he's going to get open more, because I don't like Marquez Valdez-Scantling at all. Him and Lazard are terrible. And, not as people, not as players overall, but for fantasy purposes, right? Christian Watson, I think, is going to be a little bit more stable than Valdez-Scantling. I think Valdez-Scantling had something just under 120 points last year in 17 games in one quarterback PPR dynasty. I think Christian Watson could get, be more around the 18, but I think that he's going to have 20 or 30 point games, a couple of them, and then a pile of, 11 to 5 games, and he's going to have, your 4 or 5 big games, and you have to have him in your lineup. I mean, it's great if he's going off doing that in the playoffs for you and you have him in, but if he's always on your bench and you see those games every time, and then after that you put him in, and then when you put him in, he gets you 5, you're going to be awful pissed off. So just for that simple fact, I do like Christian Watson. If he's in the early second round, I'm probably taking him. but I don't even know if I like him over guys like Bell, who goes off here in the very end of the second round, or a couple other guys, because they're going to get more consistent target share. They're not going to have the big boom games, but they're not going to have the bust games either, because they're going to come up with 5 to 7 catches, and they're going to have 50 to 70 yards. So you're looking at 10 to 12, 14 points from almost every week on a guy like David Bell. So I guess I kind of jumped the gun on that one again. Jahan Dachshund, he came in at 112. So going down the list on this, trying to somewhat, and Jahan Dachshund, I like him. I like his landing spot. People, you got to remember also, the NFL is fluid. When you take these draft picks, it's dynasty. It's not just this year. It's forever, supposedly. You'll wind up moving him before forever, but yeah. But Jahan Dachshund, he's going to play the slot. So he is going to be a different animal in Washington than everybody thinks that he is, right? So you're still going to have Dyami Brown and Terry McLaurin. So, and I think I've explained this one also in a different video, but if you play slot, he's kind of insulated. He's going to probably get a bunch of check downs, hopefully, if Carson Wentz checks down to running backs or the slot guys, which he's supposed to, instead of just chucking it deep, which McLaurin may help McLaurin a lot, may help Dyami Brown a lot, but I think that he's going to be a good pick. And at this spot, with the draft capital, I mean, he's going to be very insulated, like I was talking about Kenny Walker, because next year, McLaurin is up for a new deal. With the dollar figures that are going out, with the amount of young receivers that they have, with whatever they need to do with a quarterback in Washington after this year, whether Carson Wentz is a boom, a bust, or meh, right? Jahan Dachshund's going to be insulated from all that, so I think that that's a nice little pick there. So, George Pickens. I've heard a lot of different things. I mean, my gut feeling with George Pickens is I don't like it. Him getting a guy at the early first, early second round, a guy who's supposed to have all this potential, and you're going to have to wait a year before you really can see what he has, because he's not going to get the target share that he should to be a pick this high in the draft. All right. I'll just go about it and say it this way. I mean, you got Johnson, you've got Claypool ahead of him, right? You got Freiermuth, you got Najee Harris. I mean, Najee Harris is going to get a ton of dump offs this year, or at least he should, right? Whether it's Trubisky or Pickett, right? The problem is when you're the third receiver and you have a good, decent tight end option, and you've got a running back who's going to catch between 70 and 90 balls, and you've got a rookie quarterback or a bad quarterback, placeholder quarterback in Trubisky, I don't think that you're going to get a whole lot of love to your third option as a wide receiver unless it's gadget plays. And they already got that guy. They've got Claypool for the gadgets. The thing that I have heard a couple people talk about is that they're not sold on Claypool, right? So if Claypool is going to be coming up on his rookie contract in 2 years, right? Not after this year, whatever. So on his fourth year, this is going to be his third year. So not after this year, but after next year, he could be gone, or they'll be trading him. This could be a pick for them to groom him, get him acclimated, not accommodated, to the NFL, right? And then have a big second year. So I do not mind this pick. He's got all kinds of athletic ability. I am not sold on him as a prospect. He's got a lot of the boxes checked, right? Check, that he should be a good player. And I know he makes fantastic catches, right? 2 years ago, I watched over half the Georgia games, not the national championship year, the year before, because that's when I noticed Cook, and I wanted to watch Georgia's games because I wanted to see what Cook did 2 years ago, not this year, but the year before. Pickens was healthy. Pickens disappointed me many games, and he to me, he just didn't look like he was as good as they talked about. That might be my issue with him, but I'm just telling you how I feel about him. So we'll just say that, right? So Spiller, the next guy, 2-2. I think this is a fantastic value. Pre-draft, pre-injury, pre-everything, people were talking about Spiller being better than Breece Hall. Legitimately off of their tape because he's a year younger than Breece Hall. He's the youngest guy in the NFL draft this year. Everybody was talking about him. So now the question is he or is he not really injured? Did or did not that really affect his 40 time and his explosion numbers, right? This is the thing, too. You got to remember, he is a 20-year-old guy. He had production 3 years ago as a 20-year-old guy in the SEC as a freshman. Do you think that kind of guy is just going to flame out? I don't. I don't know if he's going to be a bell cow kind of running back. I don't know if he's going to be just a good backup. I don't know if he's even going to just be bad. But to me, the question that he may have had a groin injury, which is what caused him to run so poorly, to jump so poorly, do all the testing so poorly at the combine, at his pro day, that would explain it. Being that he's only 20 years old, how many guys still are getting faster or can get faster with training at 20 years old? Many. There's a lot of guys that are 20 years old that are going into their junior year in college, right? So there's a whole lot of smoke. There's a whole lot of consternation about Spiller. I think that he is definitely a guy in the early second round to take a shot at. If I'm going to be there, if Cook is gone, I'm going to probably try and grab him, early second round if I can. I'm hoping that he's going to drop to late second and I'll be able to deal with him there. But, I would be happy getting him here. Now, getting back to Trey McBride at 2-3, I think that that's an overdraft. I think we've covered that one a little bit already. Tight ends breakout ages are typically 3 or 4 years. Look at the guys that were highly, highly rated 2 years ago. They've got 2 years of experience already. Troutman, Cole Kmet, those guys, they're still not cranking out. Was it Knox was the year before, right? So was Schultz. So those guys had 2 full years in before they started breaking out, right? This is what happens with tight ends, all right? So to pick Trey McBride this high in this draft, I don't recommend it. I can see why, because if you really like him, if you like his landing spot, if you think that he's going to be the guy in Arizona in 2 years, yeah, I understand that. But throw an early third at him, late second. Let somebody else draft him, let him sit on their bench, and swoop in with a third-round pick next year, or third-round pick next year for the year 24. Get somebody else. Take a chance on Alec Pierce, the next guy, right? Okay, so we'll just cut right now. We'll go to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce, Indianapolis, wide receiver from Cincinnati. Large, fast. He's got all the physical traits. Check, 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 right? Again, I'd like to think about him very similarly to a Christian Watson. Christian Watson in this draft is 111. Why is Alec Pierce not there? Pierce was at a bigger college. Desmond Ridder, quarterback. We know what the NFL thinks about Ridder, right? He got drafted late because they don't think he's very good. I'll just say that. So with Alec Pierce, why would you not take Alec Pierce over Trey McBride if you're in that spot? Because you have a former MVP quarterback throwing there. They have a need for a wide receiver 2, bare minimum, if not 3 if Paris Campbell comes back. He's got the huge frame. He runs fast. He's going to be no worse than Christian Watson. So at 2-3, you can be getting the same type of player than you could have got at 110 or 111 there with Christian Watson. So I don't understand that kind of rationale, right? And I think that this draft is very colored. It is not a super flex, because otherwise Pickett would have been in the first round. But then still, at 2-5, Kenny Pickett is still too high for me. I would draft Kenny Pickett 210, 211 maybe. I personally won't, my team's situations. I place a high premium on quarterback play. Every team I have, I want a top 5 type quarterback. I make sure that I do that. I traded a first round pick for this year for Dak in one of my leagues last year because I did not have a quarterback. So I made sure that I did not have that issue coming into this year. So I did that in the middle of the year last year. So I just want to make sure that people understand that. So if you don't have a quarterback, I can see you grabbing Pickett this high, but I don't like it. I mean, the only nice part about it is the pick is going to be insulated for value if you do have to pick a guy this high, right? Think Trey Lance. Trey Lance was a first-round pick. Now, granted, he was a top 3 pick, and he got in enough games to show that he's going to, his Konami code, his legs, he showed enough with that to maintain his value or even increase it because a lot of teams have him, he's in the top 10 for quarterbacks, and he's hardly played, right? I mean, I don't think that would happen with Pickett if Trubisky plays all year, but still, everybody's going to know that he was a first-round pick. He's going to have a long run there to prove himself, so he's going to be insulated for quite a while, in that regard. So, not my cup of tea there once again, and we'll move on. So we're getting halfway through, the first, almost the players that matter, top 3 rounds. I'm going to take a sip of water here, and then we'll talk about Damien Pierce, Houston running back. I'll do that for a thumbnail, right? At any rate, Damien Pierce. Don't know if I should like him, to be quite honest. I've seen a little film on him. I've heard what every expert says. He's from the SEC. He checks the boxes. He didn't produce. He did not produce. Well, he wasn't given the chance. He's got everything that NFL people look for a 3-down bell cow running back. I've heard everything about this. I've heard that wasn't given the opportunity to play because he was at Florida, and for the coaching staff, for whatever reason, is trying to be like Georgia and have a 3-headed monster or, even a Spiller where they got split backfield type of deal. But he still didn't blow up with the numbers that he used. I personally like him. I do like him at this spot, but on the same token, I don't like him, right? And the reason that I don't like him is I think of James Robinson, right? Robinson, Jacksonville. Won the starting job was an undrafted free agent. Every 2 years ago, nobody drafted him. But because of Fournette getting cut and 3 running backs in front of him going down, in the COVID year, he got the shot to play. And he was good, not because he was good because of volume. Just like Mike Davis, right? Good because of volume. Damien Pierce could be good because of volume in that offense this year. That's it. I don't think that he's going to have a long upside. They're going to have early picks next year. They're going to need a quarterback. That's probably first round. Second round may very well be running back replacing Damien Pierce. But at least Atlanta got with him the backup to next year's starter. So that might be the deal there. So with that being said, pick him, grain of salt. If he starts blowing up, if you can flip him for a first-round pick, do it, especially if you're not going to be in the mix for the playoffs by the trade deadline. It could be a very good move, very profitable for you. So that's why I say I like him, but I don't, right? I mean, they already got their tight end in Atlanta starting. They already got a wide receiver, from this year's draft. I mean, if they go out and get a quarterback, if they're a top 5 pick next year, if they go get a quarterback, second round, if they're in the early second, they could get running back, one of the top running backs to replace him. And it's supposed to be a deep running back class, right? So it's a very, very, very real possibility there, right? Brian Robinson being picked right in the middle of the second round. I can't say I hate it. I don't like it. The only way I would advocate picking him here because of this draft class, this lack of quote-unquote talent, right? If you have Gibson and you want to handcuff, mid-second round in this draft is really like an early third round pick in most years' drafts because the talent level is condensed, right? So I don't hate it, don't like it, but I could understand it in a few situations. Brian Robinson couldn't beat out 3 other starting running backs in the league, right? That are in the league already. It took him to his fifth season at Alabama before his breakout season. And at that, he still needed an injury from another guy. Otherwise, it would have been a split backfield. So just because he's got some measurables, just because he came from Alabama, he still really didn't produce. And he didn't beat anybody out. All right? Running behind an NFL line in college, me being an old-ass man, I'll say it again, old-ass man, a slow-ass man, right? I could have probably got 3.5 yards of carry behind Alabama's line. I'm just saying. I don't see the production that he had as being really credible this year. So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, he's probably going to be a good to a very good backup, and that's probably his ceiling in the NFL. So if you got Gibson, go get him. I like it. So I guess that's probably all I'll say about him. Next guy. Zamir White. Another guy from Georgia. Like I said, watched a lot of Georgia games 2 years ago. Brag about him. And I never saw it on film. I never saw anything. I never saw any burst, whatever. I'm not saying he didn't rip off some nice runs, some 8-yard runs, 10 yards run. I think I mentioned in a different video a little bit earlier, Barry Word? No, it wasn't Barry Word. It was the guy from Cleveland, Ernest Biner. If you need 6 yards, I'll get you 3. If you need 2 yards, I'll get you 3. That's Amir White. He's large. I don't know where he got his 40-yard dash from at the combine, but I'm not going to say 100%. I'm going to say 900% misleading. I know he had a couple knee operations, right? Unless by some medical miracle he got healthy from the end of the year until the combine, and his both knees got tremendously healthy or something. He is not that fast. He is not that fast on film. He doesn't play that fast. A friend of mine was talking to me about him, and he was talking about all the love that Zamir was getting even prior to the NFL draft. I said, that's hilarious. I would not touch him in the fantasy draft until the 4th round. I would not touch him in the NFL draft until maybe the 4th round. And if I was going to draft him that high, I'd be drafting him as a fullback. If I was a team that actually used a fullback yet. Zamir White's a fullback. He can catch the ball. He's slow as molasses in January. Has no wiggle to him. Like I said, unless by some miracle his knees improved 900%, I don't see it. I mean, he's going to be maybe a quality backup running back in the NFL. That's how I see it. And they bragged about him and how good he was. Just go watch any of the game tapes from the last 2 years of Georgia. Look when Cook comes in, when Cook gets the ball. If there's any daylight, what happens? Look what happens when White runs the ball. Number one, he doesn't hit the daylight. Number two, he's always breaking tackles because he's always running so damn slow. That's why I say that he would be a great fullback. I mean, he's big enough. He's supposed to be quick enough. He can get out in front of somebody and knock an overall linebacker, crush a safety. I mean, I would love him in that role. He'd be my hero, right? I mean, especially if you get back to a fullback the way maybe San Francisco used to use them back in the day. They had a couple of really good fullbacks, or maybe Allstott from Tampa Bay. If he could be a fullback like one of those guys, was that Floyd in San Francisco? I can't even remember. But a guy like that who's going to be catch you 40, 50 balls, make a bunch of blocks, get some goal line carries, and a few other carries, just because he's good enough to almost be a tailback, but he's a bit better as a halfback, or fullback. So, I mean, that's really what I see with Zamir White. Way too much time for the talent on Zamir White. David Bell, I think that he's very, 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 very interesting. Doesn't have the speed comparables that you want, right? But his production is through the roof. The reason sometimes speed doesn't matter is because you're a good football player. That's David Bell, right? I'll just go through just off the top of my head, and it's in no particular order. Good slow receivers. Well, currently, Michael Thomas, slow wide receiver, right? Think about Allen Robinson, Terrace Marshall, right? Those guys were big and slow. I mean, David Bell isn't that big, but, he's still slow. But those guys get open, right? They just get open in a different way, kind of like London, what London may have to do, getting open in the basketball player way, using your body, using your hands to catch, right? That's David Bell. Not to mention he's paired up with Watson, a top 5 quarterback. Right there, he goes through the moon. I mean, this year might not be his big breakout year. Maybe next year or the year after, depending on how long Cooper's in Cleveland, right? But they've got it all. I mean, with Schwartz taking off the top, if Cooper is running your intermediate routes, David Bell could be your safety valve, your check down, and he could just be hit and hit and hit and hit PPR monster. He could come away with 90, 100 catches, right? And 1,000 yards. And if he winds up getting 5, 6 touchdowns, you're loving a late second round pick like him. Loving. I don't know if this is a great thing, but I mean, I do like David Bell's hands. I do like how he plays. I do like that he's a football player. Another incredibly slow guy that everybody forgets about, but they remember his hands and his playmaking ability, Chris Carter. I don't want to say HOF with David Bell like for Chris Carter, but the point is you do not have to be uber fast to get open in the NFL. You have to know how to run the right routes. You have to know to run to areas. You have to know to run where the quarterback's throwing the ball. Oh, excuse me about that. Sorry, drinky. All right, so that's David Bell. So we'll just go on from there. Enough with him. Tyler Algier is going to be very similar to Damien Pierce, right? Sorry again. So he's going to get volume. You may want to trade him halfway through the year if you're not in contention. If you're getting him this late, you may wind up being in contention with him, so you may have to roll with him. So that's I always confuse Tyler Algier and Damien Pierce. Pierce is in Houston, so basically everything I said about Pierce and the guys who are coming, promote that to Algier and Damien Pierce in Houston. Well, you know that they're not going to be that great, right? Or Pierce in Houston, so it's going to be the same thing with Pierce. So those two guys you can just flip flop, as far as teams. I view them very similarly. Right? Jalen Tolbert to Dallas. Who knows? I can see a world where he winds up becoming the second wide receiver. He could become CeeDee Lamb to Amari Cooper's CeeDee Lamb, right? He could be CeeDee Lamb to Cooper like he would be to CeeDee Lamb now. I think I said that right, but it just doesn't sound right. At any rate, I can see that happening. Don't know if it's going to happen, right? He's got talent. I don't think that he's quite as fast as he should be, from what I'm remembering off the top of my head from the times he ran from the 40. But he's got a lot of traits, but he leaves some boxes unchecked. Second round pick, end of the second round pick, you're getting to the point where you get almost to the dart throw, right? So I like that. Matt Corral, the last pick in the second round in this mock draft, right? It is a nice pick, and I do like Matt Corral. I love the strength of his arm. A little thing I found out from my eye surgery, eyes watering now. I found out from watching a few other people, listening, learning, observing, right? Because that's what you want to do. You want to do that take little pieces of other people, what they say, and make your own. Make it your own. Ingest it, digest it, then it becomes your own, right? So you take whatever you can from it. Matt Corral was playing on one leg last year. He was told not to play last year, but he wanted to come back for his teammates, right? Made a big difference for two guys. They got drafted. They may not have gotten drafted if he had not played. But the problem is he supposedly needs surgery. He's probably got a long rehab, like a year, maybe more. That's what they were talking about with somebody that I watched about that. So I do like him. I don't like him in this spot. If he's going to take that long, why not draft him next year in the 4th round? Right? Why not pick him up as a free agent at the end of this year so you don't even have to draft him next year in the 4th round? Why waste a 2nd round pick on him? That's all I got to say. He's got the big arm. Can he do it? Can he not? I mean, to me, that makes sense why he slipped out of the draft and was a priority free agent. So it makes sense. That's why you got to go to different sources, do different things, pick up different pieces. So if that's the case, just like CJ Spiller with the groin, if that's the case, things start to make sense, right? John Mechie in 3-1, Alabama guy. I mean, you can't go wrong at 3-1 getting a talent like him. He may not be a top 20 guy. He may be a top 30 to 50 guy his entire career, but hey, you need wide receiver 3s also, and getting a wide receiver 3 in the 3rd round of this draft, very nice. Very nice. So that's that. Kyren Williams, Notre Dame. Well, I should say now LA. He's a guy you're going to have to wait a year on. Akers, right, and Henderson are ahead of him. There's no two ways about it. So they're going to get up the lion's share. He may come in situationally as a 3rd down back. Akers can catch the ball. Henderson can catch the ball. Don't think that they're just going to go to him as a 3rd down committee back. If you're hearing that anywhere, don't believe it, right? He's another guy. He looks faster than his combine. I mean, honestly, if you took Kyren Williams and put his 40 time, if there's Zamir White's 40 time on him, you would think that would be correct. If you took his 40 time and put it on Zamir White, you would think that's correct. I don't get it, but that's the way it is. So with the way it is broken down, I don't like his landing spot. I don't like his opportunity this year. If you do like him as a player, don't waste an early 3rd round pick on him. Do exactly what I just said about Matt Corral. He's not going to get the opportunity this year. Don't waste a roster spot on him in the entire year, especially if you're planning on having a shot. Even a 3rd round pick like this, take somebody else, right? Wandel Robinson is the next guy on the list. Why won't you take a shot on him? 2nd round draft capital, I believe, if I remember correctly, from the Giants. So why would you not take a shot on him? Draft capital is going to get you opportunities. Wandel Robinson, again, I don't really like him this year, but if they have massive turnover, I'm not sure exactly what Galladay's cap hit would be if they cut him after this year. It's probably not going to be much. Slayton's going to be a free agent. So is Shepard, right? So they're really only going to have Tony on their roster next year. And that is if they can straighten him out, because they were talking that they were having problems with him with the camps, right? So he might be a great pick and stash, but you're going to have to hold him probably for a year. Well, I mean, maybe not. Everybody in New York gets hurt, so he's going to be in and out of the lineup, right? So that's that. Malik Willis. Konami code. F yourself with Konami code. If the guy can't get on the frickin' field because he can't throw the fucking ball, I don't care how good his legs are. I don't care how good an athlete he is. Change the pink on there. Take that and get rid of the pink. Make it baby blue. Then I like it, him there, as a running back. Yeah, I think he could be a hell of a halfback. Why don't you just do that, right? Screw the Konami code. If you can only complete 50% of your passes, if you can't hack it at the SEC and you have to go down to Liberty, these things tell you something, guys. Don't believe the hype. I mean, I may be very well wrong. I hope for Malik Willis's sake I'm very wrong. But think about it already. He's already made it. Third round pick. He's going to get paid for a couple of years. He's probably going to be a long time backup quarterback in the NFL. 10, 12 years. He's going to make enough money. Don't feel sorry for him. He's going to be just fine. But I don't see him being a quarterback. I told in a couple of videos before, I said I'm going to stay away from every quarterback in this draft, right? And that was pre-draft and makes exactly this sense. I'm not going to be in on any of these. Same thing with Ritter. One of the reasons, and a guy I mentioned a little bit earlier, Alec Pierce. One of the reasons why Alec Pierce doesn't have the numbers that he should have, Christian Watson didn't have the numbers because he didn't miss a whole year because of COVID. They played one game, right, in NDSU. So he couldn't come out after that year. That's why he came out as a senior, not a junior. Couldn't do it. The reason that Alec Pierce is in the second round and not up there with Christian Watson is because Ritter couldn't get him the ball. It's that plain and simple. That's why Ritter slid in the draft. You remember draft night, people were talking about him coming back into the second round. Did it happen? No. People know. They've done their deep dives. NFL scouts know who can play and who can't. These super flex leagues piss me off because everybody wants to overvalue terrible quarterback play. In our leagues, they're a little bit undervalued in the one quarterback, right? But still, you don't want to tie your horse to another dead horse because you ain't going to be able to pull him very far, right? So that's what I see. So even in the third round, those two are two wasted picks, right? Khalil Shakir in Buffalo, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, developmental guy. I mean, he may get on the playing field for 40% of the snaps, something like that. Spell guys. He may have a few flash games, a couple touchdowns, kind of like Gabriel Davis has been the last couple of years, right? I could see that for him. But yeah, Hassan Haskins, Tennessee. Do you believe that he's going to be replacing Henry? I don't. I mean, fine in the mid-third round, but don't get your hopes up on him. Velius Jones, I'll just pass. I'll pass on the talent. I'll pass on the situation. I'll pass on the team that drafted him. Pass on the quarterback that's throwing him the ball. He's just a pass. I'll pass. Davis Pierce, like his landing spot. I'm conflicted because I've heard high 4.4s for him and 4.3s for his 40 time. So I don't know how fast he is, right? He definitely didn't show anything at LSU. Not as far as what he should, right? Now, be that as it may, he still may break out because obviously being from LSU, being where we're, coming out, he's got the pedigree, right? He hasn't shown it yet, right? So taking a chance on him in the 49ers town, right, where they pull running back out of a hat. Every year it's going to be somebody different. Is it him? Is it Jeff Wilson this year? I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, hopefully Elijah Mitchell stays healthy all year, but we will see, right? So as far as that goes, at this point in the third round, I personally would like him in the fourth round or something like that. But yeah, same thing with Pierre Strong. By next year, they could be the number one guy coming in next year, both those two guys, Pierre Strong and Davis Pierce. If Jeff Wilson's only there for 1 year, if Trey Sermon, they can cut bait with him after next year. So with him as a third round pick, it would be Mitchell and him. They will look for 49ers to draft a running back next year regardless, right? But if Mitchell winds up being hurt a lot, Davis Pierce could pass him up, this year. So by week 8, week 10, he could be Mitchell, right? The guy stepping in and starting. As far as Pierre Strong, Harris, last year of his contract. Do you see Ramondre Stevenson being a starting running back? Maybe, maybe not. This guy might have the opportunity to be able to step in the skeletal remains of James White left there, right? J.J. Taylor. I mean, he's probably not going to be the answer. I mean, what other, wide receiver slash running backs do they have there? So I do see a way or a path possibly for Pierre Strong to maybe be the number one guy coming out of the gate next year, because we know that Belichick's not going to want to waste a high draft pick on a running back next year, right? That's just the way Belichick is. So I definitely could see Pierre Strong having a path. Maybe not too likely, but it could happen. I do see it. So I like that. Calvin Austin being, the fourth or fifth guy in Pittsburgh. Not a fan, but, we're at the end of the late third round, which would be mid-fourth or late fourth in the typical draft. I mean, it's a dart throw. I take it. Jelani Woods, I'm pretty sure he's the guy that, if I'm remembering correctly, because I'm not really up on all the tight ends. Like I said, I don't really look to draft a tight end get a tight end until their third or fourth year, because guys just aren't going to pan out. Jelani Watts, I think he's the big guy who has incredible speed, actually out-tested Davis from a couple years back for tight ends, right? So Indianapolis, they need a tight end. Matt Ryan, does he throw to a tight end? Not really, unless your name is Pitts. So, and he's going to have several decent, if Campbell's there, if Taylor's, best, Jonathan Taylor is the best running back, best, good receiver. If he's there, if you got Pittman, if you got, the guy who they drafted this year, there's not many throws left for a tight end in that offense, right? So if you like him, take him. I can't argue. I just wouldn't. Sam Howell, who they made me auto draft. Again, wait until the end of the year, pick him up off of waivers. Week 12, week 14 in the playoffs, because you can have a guy that gets hurt and you can pick him off of waivers for free. And you don't have to waste a roster spot to hold him. So, Wademeyer, I can't believe his testing scores at his pro day. All last year, he was talked about as being the number one tight end prospect. I expected him to be Trey McBride. People pushing him up boards like this. Undrafted. I don't even see why he's where he's at. I mean, at this point, I question, does he even want to play in the NFL? Does he want to be a professional? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy. I haven't heard a ton of stuff, but I can't fathom that he tested that bad without trying to test that bad. I mean, I just really can't. Jeremy Rucker. I like the player. I like his landing spot. I think that Zach Wilson is one of the quarterbacks who will use a tight end, right? He loved this guy from BYU. I mean, he threw a lot of passes to tight ends at BYU. I think Jeremy Rucker has a future. Again, I don't think it's this year. They went out and signed two tight ends, two of them, to play this year. They got him for the future. So pick him up at the end of the year or beginning of next year. I mean, he's going to be out there. Believe me. Jerome Ford, failed Alabama running back, went to Cincinnati, had a little bit of play, looks decent, can do everything. I mean, if you like Chris Evans, output, I think Chris Evans and Jerome Ford are virtually the same guy, right? So, and is there a path for him to get some playing time? Maybe as early as next year. Yes, I can definitely see that. So, I mean, at this point in the fourth round, he's worth a pick if you have the roster room, because I don't expect Hunt to be back next year. He might even get cut this year, right? Johnson, he's nothing special. So if he's going to want more money next year, he's going to be gone. And Chubb, what are they going to do with Chubb? Is Chubb going to be healthy? He's starting to get older anyways. Are they maybe not going to pay him? I mean, Jerome Ford might be the number one backup by as early as next year. So I can understand that, but I don't think that he's ever going to be a bell cow. I mean, he could wind up being a third down back, that kind of stuff. Romeo Dubois, no, thank you. Bellinger, I mean, let me see here. Who else is back here? Traquan Thornton. All right. I mean, Justin Ross, just because he's with Kansas City. Yeah, but again, all these guys, just pick them up next year, right? I don't think that any of these guys are going to be breaking out in the first 6-8 weeks easy. I mean, Greg Dulcich, same thing. I mean, if you're going to be doing a tight end, he might be the guy. Is Albert O the guy? So I don't know. All these guys in the 4th round, you're throwing a dart. If you have the room, yes, I like them. Like I said, the top 2 rounds are probably going to be pretty similar unless somebody made a really stupid cut. Then somebody's going to wind up being in the top 2 rounds, right, for a rookie draft. But the top 2 rounds is going to be pretty much similar. By the time you get into the 3rd round, you're going to start mixing in some veterans. By the 4th round, it's going to be mostly veterans. So that's why the 4th round here is probably more like really a 5th round in a true draft. So that's why I only did the 4 rounds. Because after that, I mean, I really don't care. I mean, if there's somebody I'd like out there, Bull Melton, a name. I don't even remember where he landed, but he got drafted so freaking late, one of the last couple picks in the draft. There's no draft capital there, so probably no upside for this year for sure with him, right? So, and there's a couple things that I didn't like about him, but I did like how he ran with power. So just an honorable mention with this draft. And this is, so once again, this is the mid-May after the NFL draft. This is a mock draft of 2022 rookies coming in. So just want to make that clear again here. This is 1 quarterback PPR. This is not super flex, but it is Dynasty. So with that, that's pretty much the video. Hopefully I didn't go too long or too in depth with these guys. I just wanted to get this out here, run through it. My mouth is extremely dry. It's time for me to get the heck out of the office and go home. And so that's going to be the size of it. Until next time, have a great day and be good to everybody else out there, right? Because that's what you need to do. All right. For J&J Dynasty, we'll try to peek over it, right? Yeah, we're here. All right. Have a great day.